Hi, it's Kathy here, and thanks for joining me for part 3 of my desktop planner tutorial. We finished in part 2 embellishing the front cover, and in part 3 we're going to finish up with the front cover and move into the back cover and the closure. Okay, next we'll want to take a sticker from the sticker sheet in the collection, and for Ladies Diary I used one of the chipboard tags, and I've already matted this on the black cardstock, and I've put dimensional adhesive on the back. So I'm going to adhere this to the bottom part of the cover, and I want a little bit of this strip of paper showing, and coming up to the edge of the rosette is fine. And then we'll be cutting 2 images again from the About Time paper, and it's this image and this image here. So I've cut those out and inked the edges again, and this one is the it says Diving Girl and Apples, and I've put 2 dimensional adhesive dots here on the bottom of it, and I'm going to add a little glue gun there, or I'm going to add a little glue pen to the top, because I'm going to overlap this on this sticker at the bottom, just enough on the edge here, so that it's not overlapping the edges of the cover and you can still read the little hotsy-totsy there. With the other image, I'm just going to put glue on the back. Now my fingers are a sticky mess. And I'm going to angle this the other way, and I'm going to put it above the sticker and overlapping the paper strip, and I've also cut out the little cherry there with that image, and I just want to have that there. Adds a little, brings in a little bit more of those colors into the bottom. And now we need to add some black pearl stranding. The easiest way to do this, I have a spool of it. I'm not going to tell you how much to cut, because you really need to kind of play with this and figure out how much you might want on here. With mine, I'm going to, I don't want to completely cover those images, so I'm going to cut, I actually want this to end right here, so I'm just going to cut it right here. And then we're going to apply, we're going to adhere this with a hot glue gun. Okay, I'm going to start on this end of the pearl strand, because I know I want it to end right where these stickers end. And I'm going to use the hot glue gun and put a bead of the glue directly onto the cover, and then press that pearl there down on top of that. You'll want to position it on here however loopy you want it. I just want mine just barely showing on this one. I had quite a bit more of it showing on the Ladies Diary. I'll come in on the other end, and this is underneath the rosette, so it's not going to matter if it gets messy. And I'm going to put more of the glue and get that on there. Then you'll probably need to add a little bit more in at least one other spot in order for this to keep its shape. I don't really want that on this lady, so I'm going to put a little glue right in between the two, just a little, and then place that down. And now we are going to work on the back cover. For the back cover, you'll need to cut a piece of cardstock 4 3/4 by 8 1/4, and then cut a piece of pattern paper 4 5/8 by 8 inches. And I'm going to go ahead and ink the edges of this paper. Okay, I'm going to use some ATG and get this adhered to the cardstock. And again, I'm sewing this, so I don't need to put a whole lot of adhesive on there. You're going to need to put more if you're not going to sew. And then you're going to line it up with the right edge of the cardstock piece, and I'm going to leave that 1/8 inch border around the sides. I've cut out 2 images from it's the berries paper, the back side of this paper, and I want to put these on and kind of angle them on the top and bottom of the back cover. And then I'm going to use a ruler, and I'm going to line up the ruler. I'm going to hold this in place, line up the ruler with the edge of the paper piece, and I'm going to use a pencil and I'm going to draw a straight line through this image. Okay, and then I'm going to cut this with scissors just to the inside of the line, and I'm going to ink this edge and all of the edges here of this piece. And then I'm going to use a glue pen again, and I'm going to adhere this to the left side and even with the edge of the paper. So I think I want this one right about here. Then on this one we're going to do the same thing, and I want it angled like that, so I'm going to line this one up with the edge of the cardstock and draw a line. And then cut this with scissors again. Then we'll ink the edges. And then get this one glued onto the right side. And I want this one right about there. Now I'm going to go sew around these edges and I'll be right back. So I've sewn around the top, left, and bottom edge of the cardstock, and I've got my thread ends here, and I'm going to go ahead and tape these to the back side as I did on the front cover. And then we need to adhere this piece to the back cover, so I'm going to put 1/4 inch score tape around the edges again, and a little bit of ATG in the center. And remove our tape liners. Okay, and then place your covers in front of you. And this is the same as on the front. I'm lining up on the left edge, top and bottom, leaving about 1/8 of an inch of the chipboard cover as a border. And press that down. And it's overlapping again a little bit on the velvet paper, but we're going to put trim here, so don't worry about that. And the next thing we'll do is punch a hole on the left side of the cover for the closure. Okay, so I'm going to line up my centering ruler with the edge of the back cover and find the center of this side. Then I'm going to place my other ruler along that center mark, and we're going to make a mark on the left side here at 1/2 inch from the edge of the cover. So I am going to make a little mark there. And now we're going to punch a hole with the crocodile again. And this one won't be quite as tight fitting as the front cover because we don't have quite as many layers. And now we have a hole for the closure, so we'll work on that next. So we're going to cut a piece of leather for the closure, and I use this real leather, leather pieces from the Silver Creek Leather Company a lot. I found this one at Joann's. Most of the major craft stores carry them in brown and black. So what I've done, I've already measured off at 4.5 and just very lightly marked it with a pencil. I've already marked up to 1 1/8. So your leather piece needs to be 4.5 long and 1 1/8 wide. And I'm just going to mark along this ruler. And I'll be able to see that because then I'm going to cut this with scissors. When you use the white pens and you cut with the scissors, sometimes you're going to see that white line and the pencil just kind of rubs off. So I can see that enough, and I'm going to cut, and I'm going to use the Tim Holtz scissors to cut that, and then I'll be right back. Now I'm going to use a die, and I want a little bit of a decorative edge to this leather band. And I am using the same Spellbinders Petite Labels one. This is the middle die in that collection. or in that die set. I've already die cut it from white cardstock, and I'm just, so you can see this easier, I'm going to line this up on the very edge of one end of this leather piece, and I'm going to trace around just this edge of the die cut. Normally I would use the die itself, but that's a little bit too pointy for me, so I'm going to use the die cut piece to trace around. And just tracing around this portion, and I'm kind of going straight up to the edge, because you'll notice that this is not on the edge, and I'm just going kind of straight up. So that should be enough for me to be able to see that and cut that out. And I'll go ahead and show you that right now. And I'm going to use the Tim Holtz scissors again, and I'm just going to follow that line that I drew and just cut around this to the edges of the leather. And that I need to round a little bit more. And you might have to fuss with it a little bit if it's not exactly the way you want it. And I may trim that up a little bit more, but that should give you an idea here of how we're going to cut. And I'm going to do the same thing then on this side and trace around. I'm going to line this up with the edge of the leather piece, and then I'm going to trace around this side of the die cut. So I'm going to finish that and cut this edge, and then we'll punch holes so we can attach this closure. Okay, I have my leather piece cut now on both ends. On one end of the piece, we're going to put a ruler at 5/8 from the end, and you're going to make a dot here on the center of the leather piece. And I'm going to use a white pen. So 5/8 of an inch from the end and in the center. And we're going to punch a regular size hole with a crocodile through this. And I'm just going to punch where that mark is. And on the other end, we're going to measure 1.5 inches from the end, and we're going to make another mark in the center of the band. On this one, you're going to use the large hole on the crocodile because we need this to go over the hitch fastener. I am going to center the large hole on this. Now we have two holes, and we have the hole for the hitch fastener. And what you're going to need to do with the larger hole is make 2 slits with scissors at the top and bottom, so heading towards the narrow width of the band. And they don't have to be very large, just kind of in the center. Make a small slit with your scissors. Okay, and then do the same on the other side of that hole. You're going to make a small slit with the scissors, and this is going to allow this hole to go over the hitch fastener. And what you'll probably need to do is check that, and we'll do that right now. I'm going to put the cover in front of me. I'm going to see if this will go over, and it does. I could probably, yeah, that'll work fine. Now we will attach this to the back cover. Now we're going to add the trim along the side of the back cover. So I'm going to take my fabric glue again, and I want to overlap this cardstock piece on the back cover by 1/4 inch again. So I'm going to put my fabric glue down here on the edge of the cardstock, and I have the same trim that I used on the front. Okay, and now I'm ready for the second piece, so I'm going to put more fabric glue on the top of this one. It looks like it might be a little crooked. And on the Ladies Diary Planner, I used the same two, the wider lace and the thinner lace on that one that I did on the front. And now I'll put this second piece on top of the first. And now we're ready to work on the closure. So now that we have our closure piece ready to attach, we're going to use a decorative brad. I'm using an antique silver brad, and you're going to put it in the hole that's 5/8 from the one end, in the smaller hole. So I'm just going to insert the brad in there. I'm going to turn this leather piece over to the back side, and I'm going to put fabric glue just along this edge up to the brad, and then we're going to put it through that hole in the cover. So let me move this so you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to put that glue just along here, and that'll make sure that this stays firmly down on the back cover. And then we're going to put this brad through the hole in the back cover and keep the leather straight on there, and then just press that leather down to adhere that part on the back, and then open the prongs where I'm going to turn this over. We're going to open the prongs on the inside of the cover. So open those up. And now the last part of the closure piece is adding the magnet and the keyhole to this end. Okay, go ahead and close the closure piece over the hitch fastener, and then take a magnet and let it attach to the magnet on the front cover on top of the leather there. And then what I'm going to do next is add a little bit of glossy accents to the top of that magnet, and we're going to attach our antique keyhole. I'm using a slightly different one that I used on Lady's Diary, so just try to find one that will fit for the width of this. And I'm going to put a little bit of score tape on the back of this to hold it, because we are going to need to sew, hand sew through this keyhole. I've just found that a hot glue gun, or it sometimes works with leather, but when you have a large piece like this, it may not hold that good, or the glossy accents, and it depends on what kind of leather. If you're using suede, you'll have much better results, but mine is a kind of a smooth leather. So I'm just going to place the keyhole over the top of that magnet and center it on the band. And then I'm going to take transparent thread and a needle, and on the one on Lady's Diary, I would come up through the center of this keyhole and around through the leather. So I will show you that next. Okay, so I've doubled a piece of transparent thread here on this sewing needle and tied a knot on one end. My antique keyhole is actually holding pretty good on here with just the score tape, but I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do this in case yours is not holding so good. So I'm going to come up through the middle of this, where the keyhole is, just right along the edge, and pull this sewing needle up through. It's a little tough to do. And then the knot is on the back side. And then I'm just going to come around the top of the keyhole, right on the edge of it, back down through the leather band. And that will make sure that this stays on there, and you really won't see that transparent thread. So I'm going to do that once more on the top, and then I'm going to do it again on the bottom to hold that on there good. And you may not find you need to do that, but that's an extra trick. So now that I have the keyhole here on the closure, I want to add that seam binding that we worked with earlier. So I am going to just kind of trim the end a little bit. Mine got a little frayed when I was spraying it with water. And I'm going to put this through the ring fastener on the spine and just tie a little knot. And now we are finished with the outside of our planner covers, and we're going to work on the inside of the back cover.